baby's head.
For sale, one wooden beach hut, price £12,000.
Volunteers find foster homes for threatened frogs and toads.
And aiming for gold, the athletes heading for the Olympics.
Good evening to you. Royal baby fever is hitting Hampshire tonight as the village of Dummer prepares itself for celebrations. Villagers have been on tenterhooks since they discovered the Duchess of York was admitted to the exclusive Portland hospital early today. Indeed, it's just been confirmed that the Duchess is now in labour. Well, speculation began mounting that the baby's birth was imminent when the Duke of York came home on special leave. But only 24 hours ago, the Duchess herself was feeling well enough to go out for a drive in the country. Outside the hospital in Great Portland Street, newsmen are maintaining their siege and security has been stepped up. The Duchess's gynaecologist, Anthony Kenny, is now at the hospital. Well, we can now go over to Dummer, where Rob Widdows has been spending an exciting day.
One thing that's almost certain to change in the village of Dummer once the royal baby is born is the sign on the outside of the village pub. No longer will they be congratulating the Duke of York and Sarah on their wedding, but on the birth of their first baby. There are hordes of reporters and photographers here, of course, all clamouring for the best story. But what they can't know is whether it'll be a prince or a princess. And that's the question that's been vexing the villagers here in Dummer today.
I think it'll be a girl, and I think she'll have blonde hair and more like Fergie than Andy. Boy, I think. More like Andy than Fergie. No red hair. And quite a hefty baby.
Boy, I think he'll have ginger hair, red hair. That's about it, really.
The two most popular names so far are Elizabeth and Victoria. Only 4 people have gone for a boy, and those names are Richard and George.
Well, let me tell you, if the Duchess does give birth to her first child before midnight, it's going to, according to Chinese tradition, be blessed with the century's luckiest birthday, 8th of August 1988, or 8888. Let's now join Rob Widdows down there in Dummer. Rob, you've been there most of the afternoon. Have you seen any members of the Ferguson family?
I regret to say we haven't, Fred. Of course, Sarah's mother is in hospital with her, waiting for the baby. We went down to Dummer Down Farm to see if we could talk to Major Ferguson, but he wasn't prepared to make any comment at all today. They're busy harvesting at Dummer Down Farm, and the farm manager did ask us if we'd keep away this afternoon.
And Rob, with the news now that the Duchess is in labour, is there much excitement there?
There's terrific excitement, Fred, of course, yes. There are hordes of reporters and cameramen here, all bustling about, trying to get the best story, trying to get an exclusive. The one question they can't answer, of course, is whether or not it'll be a boy or a girl. But at the centre of activity, the Queen Inn here at Dummer, where they invented Fergie's Fizz, they've produced a little drink for a boy and a girl. A blue one for a boy and a pink one for a girl.
Rob, you stay there with the TVS cameras and have a nice drink on us. We'll talk to you later. Liz.
Nearly half of all the households in the south of England can't afford to buy their own homes, according to a report out today. The report shows a startling 54% of people in Surrey don't have sufficient income to buy a house. In East Sussex, the figure is 52%. The proportion on the Isle of Wight is more than 40%. That figure has doubled in only 6 years. Berkshire has jumped to 42% from 24%. And Dorset has risen to 41% from 23%. And the message from the report's authors, the Association of District Councils, is clear. The government must provide more cash to build more council houses. Meanwhile, near Bournemouth, a property which could be within the grasp of many a first-time buyer has gone on sale. But the £12,000 price tag will only get you a tiny beach hut. Stephen Hall reports.
This des res is literally only a stone's throw away from the beach at Canford Cliffs near Bournemouth. It's already attracting considerable interest from potential buyers. But the hut has no running water or electricity, and there's hardly even room to swing a deck chair. Can you really justify a price tag of £12,000 when you're selling starter homes in Lancashire at the same price?
I think we can, because it's a very affluent area. Things are going very, very well. Local properties are very, very expensive. I mean, some of the flats at the top here, we've just sold a flat here for £375,000. And working on that basis, paying, say, £15,000 for a beach hut is not a particularly large sum.
Well, I think it's appalling. It should be a lot cheaper than that. I mean, prior to the war and Poor Council owned them, they were renting them for 50p a week.
No way. No, I'd rather sit out there and save myself £12,000.
Well, there's not much to it, is there?
But the price is a little high for you.
Just a bit.
The agents expect to get £15,000 for this wooden beach hut. With current property prices rising by 30%, it could turn out to be the bargain of the year. Stephen Hall, Coast to Coast, Bournemouth.
More news now. Thames Valley Police say a mother who dumped her dead baby in a hotel's rubbish pile urgently needs medical help. The body of the newborn child was discovered at the Malthouse Hotel in Reading. The owner was clearing up the backyard when he found the baby in a tightly knotted plastic bag. Police closely examined the rubbish area and have also been going through the hotel's register for any clues as to the parents. A children's fun day at a school in Berkshire ended in tragedy today when a 7-year-old boy drowned in a swimming pool. Staff tried in vain to revive the youngster at the fun day held at the Crossfields Prep School in Shinfield. Emergency services at Gatwick went on full alert today when a British Airways TriStar carrying 400 people developed steering problems shortly after takeoff. The pilot returned safely and the faulty air flaps repaired for a second takeoff 1 hour later. Meanwhile, a Sussex man accused of trying to sabotage a Gatwick passenger jet has been remanded in custody by Crawley magistrates. Fred King from Hove was allegedly caught forcing items into one of the aircraft engines.
Surgeons are trying to save the legs of a woman in her 30s who accidentally fell under the wheels of a train in Frimley Station near Camberley. One of her legs was completely severed. A railway worker suffered a massive electric shock today after stumbling onto live tracks at Arundel Station in Sussex. He's seriously ill in hospital at Chichester. A laundry van ploughed into a lorry parked on the hard shoulder of the M27 near Fareham this afternoon. The drivers weren't seriously injured, but the accident has completely blocked the eastbound carriageway at junction 11 for several hours. Police say they hope the jams will be cleared shortly. Motorists who've been fined for parking on double yellow lines in Basingstoke are to get their money back. The lines were painted in the town's Haymarket before the council had approved the legal orders. The council are quickly putting right their blunder.
Thousands of frogs, toads and newts whose habitat is being threatened by developers have been transported to a new home. More than 300 nature lovers descended on wasteland near Southampton docks to help take them to land well away from the bulldozers. This report from Shelley Hunt.
It wasn't exactly the weather for it, but there were the humans and frogs leaping around after each other. Though the toads and the newts which joined them in the collecting buckets might not think so, it was all in the best possible cause. Within weeks, the amphibians' habitat will be gone, and the humans have organised a mass evacuation.
Have they been easy to catch?
Some, yes, some do. When they got in the long grass, they were pretty awful to get hold of. In the short grass, we were okay. Understones, we found a few okay, you know.
The newts Rebecca found were quite easy. These were under a pipe, and they weren't too bad.
The Great Exodus has been organised by the Southampton Common Study Centre, who've taken great care to vet all the new homes.
There needs to be some fairly unkempt vegetation, so the real whiz-kid gardeners are not too good for frogs and toads. It's those like myself who like a nice tangled garden or don't get out weeding often enough and don't use any pesticides, so there are a lot of insects and slugs for the animals to eat.
And at the last count, the centre had collected an amazing 500 adult frogs, 100 toads, and literally thousands of newts, young, old, sober and otherwise. Shelley Hunt, Coast to Coast, Southampton.
We'll take a short break now. We'll hop back shortly when you can find out about the ancient crafts which are still being practised here in the south. Join us after this break. Living in Southsea, who's being deported for security reasons, says she's stunned and bewildered by her husband's treatment. Home Secretary Douglas Hurd ordered 44-year-old El Hadi Isfagada to return to his home country. He was arrested by special branch officers last week. It's thought he may be involved with Libyan intelligence. Graham Simmons now reports.
The arrested Libyan, his British wife and their 2 young sons live here in Southsea in a basement terrace yards from the seafront. The couple have been married for 6 years. Mr. Grada had a job just round the corner at the Savile Hotel, but no one locally ever seemed to suspect that anything was amiss.
It's just sort of real standard geezer. I mean, we sort of Used to see him sort of early in the morning. He'd come down and have a chat. Because we've got a balcony that overlooks his backyard. And he just, I don't know whether I really believe he's supposed to be up to all this stuff.
Since his arrest last Tuesday by special branch officers, Mr. Grant has been held here at Portsmouth Central Police Station, visited every day by his wife, but early this afternoon transferred to Brixton Prison in London, prior to his deportation later this week. Back in Southsea, Mrs. Grada said she'd been shocked and stunned by her husband's arrest, but was now preparing to take her two sons to join their father in Libya. Do you know when that's likely to be, Mrs. Grada?
Towards the end of the week.
Towards the end of the week. Do you have any apprehension about going over to Libya?
I have, but my husband will be there, so it'll be all right.
But as Mrs. Grada prepares to leave Southsea, there's still been no definite word on exactly why her husband is being deported. All the Home Office will say is that his presence here in Britain is no longer conducive to national security. The assumption is that he's allegedly been working for Libyan intelligence, possibly against opponents of the Gaddafi regime here in Britain. Graham Simmons, Coast to Coast, Southsea.
Electricity chiefs are claiming that the new power station they're planning for Fawley near Southampton will be the cleanest in England. They say fears about pollution from the station, known as Fawley B, are completely unjustified. Nigel Burwood reports.
The plans for Fawley B, a massive coal-burning station, are bitterly opposed by councils and conservationists alike. They fear it'll bring smoke, fumes and dust to an area already hard-pressed by industry. But scientists at the Central Electricity Laboratories are trying to prove them wrong. They can test everything here, from the effect of pollution on trees to the pattern of smoke likely to come from a power station chimney. The scientists at these research laboratories say the technology to be used at Fawley B will be so advanced that the pollution it puts out will only be a fraction of that from existing power stations. That technology includes a new type of burner to reduce combustion gases and a desulfurization plant, seen in the foreground here, to clean up the smoke that is produced.
Fawley B will be the cleanest station ever built in England. It will have equipment to take out 90% of the sulphur that would otherwise come out, equipment to take out 40% or more of the nitrogen oxides that would come out. The dust emissions will be about a third of our existing stations.
The experts also deny that Fawley would be used to bring in cheap imported coal for other power stations in Britain.
We've given assurances to the local people that the maximum number of train movements that can possibly go in and out of Fawley will be limited to 7 round trips a day. And that's out of concern for the people living near the railway and in the area. Now, that wouldn't even take enough coal inland to supply one of our 2,000 megawatt stations on base load.
But whatever the scientists say, the protesters, including Hampshire County Council, will continue to fight the plans for a new power station at Fawley. Nigel Burwood, Coast to Coast.
Well, every year, of course, millions of tourists come to the south, and high on their priority lists are visit to our ancient houses and monuments. But these buildings only remain because craftsmen keep alive the skills which created the structures in the first place. Well, Rob Widdows has been to the open-air museum at Singleton, where a special demonstration of their crafts has been taking place.
This is the house that John built. John Fryer, the flint napper, breaking up the stones to fit the giant jigsaw. The Sussex Downs provide him with plenty of flint, and an old skill lives on. Meanwhile, a more modern building material is knocked into shape by the Michelmersh Brick Company from Romsey. On a good day, a man can make over 1,000 of these fireplace bricks from Hampshire clay. Without ancient skills, there'd be no ancient buildings preserved for the future.
The purpose is to show to the general public and also to the enthusiast all the vast number of skills that are still available, to show how these buildings that we've managed to save at the museum are put together.
Roger Harris from Southampton is a stone conservationist, a man with endless patience.
I'm just applying a stone consolidant just to hold the fragments together, which will make it firm enough for me to start cleaning.
And this is Annie through the stained looking glass. Annie Goodman shows visitors how leaded windows are put together.
The project is to completely remove the old lead and re-lead it in new lead so that the glass can be conserved.
If it's a figurehead you want, then master carver Dennis Parsons is your man. there was something for everyone at the museum, a masterclass in DIY. In Britain today, you're never far from a Thatcher. The oldest form of roofing in the world, and certainly the oldest form of art being shown here at the Singleton Museum. Rob Widdows, Coast to Coast, Singleton.
Well, it might surprise you to know, though there's no reason why it should, that Liz Wickham here is very much into the preservation of ancient skills, and I believe woodwork is your particular forte.
I do try, Freddie. I bought a kit to make 6 kitchen chairs with, and I hammered them all together, and